So the first one that you listed in the article is, of course, rental costs.
Yes.
And so, as you said, you're living in the city. Outside of the city, away a bit away from city center, right? And
well, I would say it's relatively close to the city center. It's a 20-minute walk from the city center.
Okay.
It's a roughly 10, 12-minute cycle to the city.
Right.
Yeah, so it's not outside of the city center. I would say it's relatively close.
Pretty, not Innenstadt, but pretty close to the center of the city.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, which is also a big deal when it comes to rent. The location that you have was whether you want to live right in the middle of the city, or if you want to live a little bit outside of the Innenstadt, or even further out, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. The further away you live from the city center, obviously it's going to be cheaper.
Yeah.
Again, it also depends, right? Are you looking for a house that has maybe 4 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms and stuff like that? Or are you looking for a shared apartment and you're just happy with a room and a shared kitchen, shared bathroom?
Yeah. So if you want to pay less, you have to make a few compromises. And I guess was it a compromise for you guys to, for example, have no elevator and no balcony?
So that is a very good question, because I actually moved in with my now current wife. So she actually found the apartment when she was single.
Oh, right.
And she actually found it because she had a job interview like around the corner from here. So on the same day, she got the job and the apartment, which is like really rare in Germany to get an apartment like on the same day.
What a day. Yeah. What a day. That's a day you come home feeling like a winner.
Right. And then it was a no-brainer when I moved in. It's 47 square meters. We don't have a balcony. And sometimes I miss it. I miss having a balcony, right? However, it's been okay. I mean, it's again the compromise that we want to save money in rent to be able to travel more and spend more money on the things that matter to us most.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the big thing, is that you have to know what your compromises are. For us, we lived in the city center of Würzburg for many years, and there it was also, for us, it was not a compromise. We one of our criteria was that we had to have a balcony, because we had at that point a small kid, and if we were going to live in an apartment block, we need some kind of place that
outdoor
he could get
space,
out, outdoor space, other than going downstairs and stuff. So all of that affects the cost, of course. So now, on one of the things you quoted in your article, you had a Numbeo stat here that the average rental for all of Germany, so the whole of Germany, not taking into account where you are, the average is for a 1-bedroom apartment in city center, you're going to pay average 750 euros. Obviously, this vastly depends on which city you're in and where
exactly.
Where you're living.
Yeah.
And then 1-bedroom outside of the city center is 570 euros on average a month. Yeah. And I think that's what you said you pay, right? What are you guys paying?
Yes.
For
so we pay
rent?
we pay 570 euros, which is, if you split that in 2, that's like really cheap. You could pay easily 570 euros in a shared apartment in Berlin, for example, as well.
Yeah.
It's
I think that's a good price that you guys are paying for the kind of location that you have and the situation. It seems like a good price.
It is a good price. However, like we talked, there are compromises. Like, for example, this apartment is, I don't know if you see, like there's like wood behind me. So it used to be an attic, and they converted it into a flat. So, and I think it's pretty old, maybe 20 plus years. And insulation wise is not the best. Sometimes in winter, if you put your hand close to the window, you can kind of feel some cold breeze coming in. Like I mentioned, it's on the 6th floor. There's no elevator, right? We're close to a train station. So there are certain things that it's not for everyone. Not everyone would enjoy living here, right?
Yeah, sure. And I think of things like when I was in Würzburg as well, talking in the Innenstadt as well. So there we paid about, I think it was about 800 euros warm, but we lived in the Innenstadt, and we had a balcony, so that was
cool.
Our criteria. But what happened was, because we lived in the Innenstadt, we lived right across the road from like a nightclub, a very, very trendy nightclub in Würzburg, and we lived right next to the tram line. So every 10 minutes we had trams going past, and every Saturday morning at 3:00 there were drunk Germans outside people on the street singing, coming out of the club. So, but for us it was fine as well. Like that. It's all about the sacrifices that you're wanting to make. Like for us, it was a balcony we needed to have, but it was okay that we lived on such a noisy street. And for you, it's okay not to have a balcony. So all of these things, of course, impact the costs.
Like we have a friend, and they live in close to the train station in Dusseldorf. So I don't know if it's a European thing, but definitely it's a German thing, that areas close to the train station are a little bit shadier than the rest of the city. So the street is pretty shady. What I mean with shady, there's like homeless people, and it's just shady, right? However, they found an apartment for 120 square meters, I think, and they pay, I think, 1,100 euros, and they have like 2 big balconies. It's like a really massive apartment. It's beautiful. However, the cheap, let's say, like rent is due to the fact that the area is not so nice. However, when you walk in, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty nice.
Yeah. And it's close to the train station, so you don't have to deal with that area for too long.
That is true, if you get there.
Straight But yeah, it comes exactly that. That's and the second place we had in Würzburg was a very nice place. It was on the 9th floor of an apartment building with an elevator.
Nice.
But we paid for that. So that was the thing. So I think paying warm, it was about 100 square meters as well. So it was pretty big. And we were paying warm, I think, close to 1,200 euros.
Wow. Okay.
So it was pretty expensive. And the other thing was that rent went up, I think, by 6% every year or 7%. So that's something else that people need to be aware of when they're signing the contract. There's a lot of contracts say that this is your rent price, but after the first 2 years, it's going to go up by this, and then it's going to go up by every year. I don't know how often that is, but that was definitely the case in the rental contract that I had.
Makes sense. I think for newer apartments, it totally, I've heard that rent increases. I think there's a capped amount that you cannot increase it. Like they cannot increase it by like 30% or some crazy number like that. It has to be agreed upon before. Luckily, our landlord has not increased the rent for our apartment, so that's pretty cool. However, I think she hasn't done it as well because, like as I mentioned, there's a few things that don't work super great, which we don't complain about. So it's like kind of like we're both okay with the fact of paying the same money, but we just don't complain too much about the things that could be improved. Yeah.
That's not very German of you.
That is not very. That's
not very German.
I should have written a letter.
I should have written a passive aggressive letter. What is? Come on. How long have you been here? I'm disappointed.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? You don't want to poke the bear, man. You sometimes just don't want to poke the bear.
That's the thing. That's we also, my wife and I, but we come from South Africa, and it's also a very similar thing where South Africans are very polite, and we don't like confrontation very much. Like we go out of our way to avoid confrontation, which is also not very German. So we also tend to put up with a lot more. Rather than complain about things. So
no, Germans don't. Like my in-laws, they have a very, very, very nice neighbor. I mean that very sarcastically. The other day we had, because they have like a very beautiful garden, and we were having a small they have a fireplace in the garden, and we had the fire on normal, it's a summer night. The next morning we get a written letter from the neighbor explaining how the smoke had totally like pretty much screwed up his evening because they went into the house and they needed to wait for hours until the smoke cleared away. Very exaggerated, I must say. And pretty much they wanted to confirm, like they wanted us to reply in a letter way, as like written form, that we wouldn't do that again after 10 p.m., right? Because 10 p.m. is, you can't. And we were there until like 9:30, which is super weird. Anyway, so we received the super passive aggressive letter. It happens.
You haven't arrived in Germany until you've received your first angry letter from a neighbor. So it's that's how it's like. So some other monthly costs that are associated with renting an apartment is things like utilities. We spoke about warm meter. So if you're paying warm, you're getting some things included in the rental price, and then there's also something called kalt meter. That's when the price is literally just the rental place, and you have to pay for water and electricity and heating and so on,
and maintenance, or like the cleaning of the building, right?
And the cleaning of the building, that's. But most of the time, I think that the prices that you see for places that you rent are warm. They're the warm.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
And then, as you said, then other costs come that you can consider as part of your rental agreement. But I mean, it's not part of the rental contract, but if you're renting a house, you will then have to pay for separate things like internet. So the cost of the internet connection. So what is the cost of your internet connection, more or less?
So we pay, I think it's pretty expensive. It's 35 euros a month for internet connection. And I would say it's not even like I mean, it's an okay internet connection. It's not the fastest, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that once you get internet connection in Germany, like, don't change. It is such a complicated process.
Yeah.
So we used to have Unity Media before, and then we changed to Vodafone.
Right.
And that took like a month. And then, funny enough, Vodafone bought Unity Media, so we should have stayed with Unity Media to begin with, because, you know, like.
Oh, if you just waited a few months, could have saved yourself all that bureaucracy.
Yeah, seriously. So in general, we pay 35 euros for a contract. However, obviously, like, and internet, I think, is kind of like an interesting topic in Germany, because also the infrastructure for internet is not the same in every city. So sometimes you might find that you get like fiber, fiber internet, fiber cable. Sometimes you need to pay for them to build it. And there's the option for you to do it. Sometimes you get very slow internet. So they might actually promote the fact that you get super fast internet for, let's say, 50 euros a month. However, your building doesn't support the cable system. So you're paying 50 euros for pretty much something that you could pay 20 or 35 euros for it.
Exactly. That is something I've never seen internet speeds for what I'm paying for. So like if you're paying for a 50 megabits line, I've never seen that speed. It's always around half or even less than half of that. And it's especially, like you say, in the big apartment buildings, because I think that they've got limited bandwidth coming into the place through the cables and so on. So the best is just to look for a decent priced internet connection and just know that you're not going to be getting the fastest. But it is generally stable. So that's I think what's more important to me is it's nice to have faster internet, but it's also good if it's stable.
Yeah, definitely. Yes.
Yeah, and then of course there's electricity costs.
That's correct. Yeah. And electricity normally, I would dare to say in most of Germany, electricity is rarely included in the warm and in the warm cost of a rental, because you have the right to choose which electricity company you wanna take.
Yeah.
So how much do we pay for electricity? We pay. Okay, now I need to look this up.
I think you said you pay about 60 euros a month for electricity.
Electricity, yes. So yes, we pay 60 euros a month for electricity. That's correct.
Yeah, and you can expect to pay, according to what you wrote in your article, between 50 and 150 euros a month. And I think that's fair. We pay a lot a month, but we have like 3 kids and a house now. And
okay, yeah.
Yeah, so we're closer to like over 100 euros a month. It can get pretty pricey here.
It can get pretty. Do you get money back at the end of the year?
Not really. I think we kind of break even. So maybe you want to explain that as well, because that's quite a common practice here in Germany.
Yeah. So electricity and utilities. So at the end of the year, you like all the. So again, bureaucracy, right? So you get a fixed amount that you pay per month. And you have to pay it, yes or yes. And at the end of the year, they kind of do a balance sheet and they say, okay, you overpaid or you underpaid, could also happen. Yeah. And so they send you another like invoice saying, if you underpaid, you owe us this much. And then you can adjust the monthly payments for next year. Or if you overpaid, you get money back.
That's right,
yeah. So you never know if you're actually paying what you actually used, or, you know, you find out at the end of the year, really, how much it is,
It's interesting the way that they do it.
However, a note on electricity, sorry to interrupt, is that if you so it's pretty easy to change electricity, funny enough, provider. And a lot of these companies, what they do is that they tell you, okay, if you change with us, we'll give you some sort of either money back or cheaper per month price. So a lot of Germans, or us included, we change every so often electricity providers because it's more convenient and it gets cheaper by changing than remaining like the whole time with one provider.
Right. Yeah, that's also, I know people do that. I don't do it because I think we just couldn't be bothered. Like,
yeah, I mean, you have to do it, right? Yeah.
And we know we got it. Interesting enough, just as a side note, on a few episodes ago, I had Patrick Niedermeyer on talking about climate change. And one of the things he said is that people can do also from a more eco-friendly point of view is look out for green energy. So a lot of energy providers also provide that, and that's, I think, sometimes a little more expensive. But if you want to have a good conscience, then that's something that you do, which is something that we're going to consider doing as well. Here.
However, I think even these green energy providers, they give you incentives to transfer over with them.
They do, yeah. They do.
We have green energy providers.
Oh, look at you guys! There, look at you. Oh, you're getting it in from your wife. She's telling you that is okay.
Because she's the one that did the swap.
All right, so you are already on the green energy train. And
it's not that much different. Like I said, I think we're actually saving money per month because of that. We changed this year to them.
Yeah.
So so clean conscience and saving money. How about that?
Yes. Yeah. Look at that. Win-win. Win-win. Something that's not win-win is the Rundfunkbeitrag. So
God,
that is something that's a surprise to Germans when they first get there. It was a surprise for me because we also in South Africa had a TV license kind of thing. But if you didn't have a TV, you didn't pay a TV license. It was when you bought a TV, you had to buy a TV license. In Germany, that is not the case. You pay Rundfunkbeitrag whether you don't listen to the radio, whether you don't watch the TV, you don't even have a TV. They don't care. You got to pay it.
Yeah, exactly. So you get the invoice every quarter, and every month is $17.50. And at the beginning, I was so confused. Again, this confusion of like, you get this letter, you don't know what to do with it. So you find someone that, like a colleague or someone that speaks German, and you're like, yo, what is this? I'm like, you need to pay. For what? And then they explain the concept is like a TV. You're pretty much financing the public TV and radio stations for them to have less ads, I would say. And like, yo, but I don't watch any German TV or listen to any.
I don't even understand German in the beginning. Like, what am I paying for?
But you have to. And then the argument was like, but do you have a computer? Yes. Yeah. So through the internet, you could connect to one of these. Oh my God. Okay. Seriously. So there's no way around it. You just have to pay it.
Yeah. And it goes to, like you said, it goes towards the radio stations, the TV stations to keep them operating. And then there's also other things like sponsoring audio dramas, for God's sake. Like
really? Oh wow.
Yes, it goes to some kinds of order. I don't know. I don't even know. You just have to pay it. Who cares what it's for? Because you don't have a choice.
However, sometimes while I'm watching, it happens very, very rarely that I watch German TV, and then it's like, seriously, that's what I'm paying for?
I'm paying. Like, this is it? Like, exactly. This is where and €17.50 is a lot of money. Like there's like I don't even pay that much for Netflix.
Yeah, exactly. So you see, and then like, I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. But there's just no way around that. It's I've got so many discussions. Like I've always like my first years I'm like, but why? Then I just stopped asking. Like whatever, take my money.
I thought we had it wrong when we heard about that, because I thought we've misunderstood something. It cannot be €17.50. I think back when I arrived, it was maybe €14 or €15 or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, so they have increased it. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's increased. So that's
on a side note, if you are sharing an apartment with friends or other people, it's $17.50 per house, right? So it's not per person. It is per house.
Per house, right? Yeah. So that's where having roommates or living together with people is
beneficial.
Beneficial, yeah. And one of the things we didn't mention up at the top is that, of course, something that's very popular in Germany is the Wohngemeinschaft concept, or having roommates. So it's quite often that there's a apartment full of people living together.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then there's also, of course, when it comes to rental, it's one-time costs. So that you've got the deposit, normalerweise.
Wow, here you go, the German in you.
It just comes into my brain. You got the deposit, which is called Kaution.
Yes. So the deposit, which is I think pretty standard practice everywhere, I would say. However, here you can pay a maximum of 3 months in advance for the deposit, and that is it's like your monthly rent times the months that the landlord asks you to pay, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah. And I've changed apartments how many times? 1, 2, 3. I've moved about 5 times in Germany, and I've always gotten the full deposit back, because it's supposed to pay for if you damage something, or if you leave the apartment and it's in a state where they have to do major repairs and whatever, then they take it out of your deposit, and then you get whatever's left, if there's anything left. I've never had a situation where I didn't get the full deposit back. So
that means you are a good renter.
Oh, we're very good. We're very good. Which is amazing because we had kids for some of that rental time. So.
Oh wow, so that's good. So that's really good. Yeah. Generally,
yeah.
However, generally, I haven't heard of rents or also that haven't gotten the deposit back. Generally,
and I
get
think
it back.
And I think it's very strict in Germany for them to be able to take money out of that deposit to pay for something. They have to have very solid grounds, and it has to meet certain criteria. So it's very renter friendly, you could say.
Yeah, that I agree. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Then some other one-time costs, of course, not associated with the rent itself, is you got to get furniture. So if you're getting your first apartment in Germany, you're looking at furniture. So there's quite a investment there. And then maybe you want to tell us about
topic.
Maybe you want to tell us about the kitchen.
The kitchen. That is like one of the weirdest things that it's so weird. So even when you're looking for apartments to rent and you look at pictures, right? You see that there's apartment. Okay, there is no there's no furnish. How do you call that again in English?
Furnishings, I guess.
Furnishings.
There's no
furniture.
Furniture. There's no furniture.
There is no There is no furniture. You get that, right? Okay, I need to buy furniture. And then you see a kitchen, right? And you're like, cool. However, when you go to see it or when you want to like actually rent it, they're like, oh yeah, but it doesn't come with the kitchen.
Yeah.
But I just saw pictures that had the kitchen in there.
Yes. And what kind of place doesn't come with a kitchen? Because in South Africa, it's not even a thought. Like the kitchen is always there.
Like that is the one thing that it's always there, right? Oh no, the previous owner's just gonna rip everything apart and take it with them. And where are they gonna take it? To their new apartment? What?
It is quite something. It just as a new person, we went to go see an apartment in our early days when we got here. We stayed in a apartment that we were put up by the company of my wife because we moved here for her job, and then we went to go see an apartment, and we walked through the place, and then we came to the kitchen, and it was literally a cave, like just a hole in the. It was a room with concrete. And I'm like, what do you? This is the kitchen? What do you mean? And then I realized you have to buy the whole kitchen, and I can tell you, it's not very efficient for such an efficient country, for such an efficient culture. It's not efficient because when you move, you almost never. So you theoretically have to move with your kitchen. So if you move to a new apartment, you have to take your kitchen with you and put it in the new place. But it will never fit those dimensions exactly. Like you will never. Like why Germans who are efficient?
Yes, why? Let's make this like a whole question that the whole country can answer. Why?
Germans, actually, you know what? I'm going to ask that question on an upcoming episode. I've got to ask a German question. Like what the hell is going on with the kitchens?
I've asked my wife every time, like, why? And she's just like, it's just, I don't know. It's just the way it works. However, sometimes you can buy the kitchen from the previous renter, right? So if you're lucky enough, they will sell it to you and then you can buy it. But if not, you have to buy the kitchen all over again.
Yeah. And if you don't like it, then they have to take the kitchen out, and then you have to go and buy a kitchen,
which is crazy.
Oh my god! Oh my god! And when we moved in apartments in Würzburg at the time, we didn't have a kitchen for 2 months because we moved in, and then we had to take all the measurements and figure it out. So we were living. We did it when we knew that we were going to get the place, but then we moved in and we had a 2-month period where we were waiting for our kitchen. And I can tell you, living without a kitchen with a small child is not fun.
Oh, I can imagine. That's another one. Yes, a lot of people are like, "Oh, I totally moved in my apartment. No, homewarming party. No, I'm waiting for the kitchen, and it's going to take between 2 and 3 months until it gets delivered."
Exactly, it's very common. Very common. Okay, so that covers, I think, the biggest cost when it comes to your living costs in Germany is that you're gonna have to. And what I can do is what I can say as well from my side is we rented for a long time, and now we've bought a house in 2017. We bought a house, and so now I can compare my costs to renting, and it's definitely more expensive to rent a house because you're not only paying when you rent. Someone else is going to pay the cost if something breaks down. So if the heating equipment breaks down, or if the internet line doesn't work, or if something like that, something happens, the landlord or the owner of the apartment has to pay for the repairs. You don't pay. So that's part of the benefits of renting. When you purchase a house, you're not only paying your monthly amount to the bank for the loan that you took out that you're going to be paying off for the next 600 years, but you're also
600 years. Wow, that's an expensive house.
I've sold my soul for this house. But you're also going to be paying for all of the extra stuff, like the garbage collection, which is usually included in your warm rent.
True.
you're paying for everything, and it amounts up. So it's not maybe the best financial plan to buy a house, except that it's a long-term investment. So after you finish paying it off in 20, 30 years or whatever, it's yours, and you now
it evens out. Yeah.
Property. So
then you would say then having a house is definitely more expensive than renting an apartment.
Yeah, I think the calculations over the same amount of people. When we were thinking about it, I looked at the calculations over a 30-year period for a 30-year mortgage or for a 30-year rental, and it wasn't that much. But buying a house was more expensive in the long run. But as I said, like once you've paid your house off, you've got an asset. Like it's a
exactly. Yeah,
you have a house, and that's something. So
definitely.
yeah. But for most expats or people coming to Germany temporarily, rental is pretty much what they're going to be looking at.
Yeah.